Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Unlucky Ones for the last episode of season 2.
We lied.
We are liars, compulsively. My name is Ryan. I was your DM or War Master.
I'm Peter, and I was Eugene.
And I am Michael. Sorry, I'm still stuck in the other mode. But I was the Billy. And
Yeah, Billy Radsmith, medic or street criminal turned medic.
Survivor.
street kid,
Ish.
not street criminal, street kid.
It was street criminal by the end.
It was a street kid
Chop,
for
chop.
most of it. I did my due diligence and didn't have it be a criminal right away.
Thank you for joining us. This episode is just kind of our postseason wrap up. So we're going to talk a little bit about the season, kind of maybe answer some questions, let you peek behind the curtain, that kind of thing. The first question I have for the two of you is: are you happy with the story that your character kind of lived out? And
I'm
we'll
never
start-
happy.
We'll start with Peter.
I'm unlucky, so how that played out is based on me being unlucky. But no, I think it's fine. I mean, Eugene got to do some leadership type things, and
So I got a follow up question to that exact statement. I wanted a moment where Eugene was like, "Fuck all y'all, I want to be the guy. I'm gonna lead." Like, I actively said like multiple times, "I don't want to lead," and I wanted. Why didn't you stand up and be like, "I'm gonna be the leader"?
We beat him into obedience too well on the
yeah.
podcast.
Well, there was the fun part, which I haven't listened to the last episode yet.
You'll never will.
In the edited version, but the part where we didn't quite know the orientation of the battle map because we were doing
It was just the
verbally.
forest in question.
Yeah, the forest. I mean, could have referenced like the funneling them in strat.
Yeah, I tried to alley-oop you for that, but
Yeah,
I
but
think and it's like, to be fair, it was a very long back. It was a callback to episode 1. And honestly, in episode 1, when I presented the information, it wasn't like I didn't go out of my way to make it important. I just picked a relevant moment in history. I knew it was plot relevant, but like to you as a player, you're just like, okay, cool, he's reading about Sparta. Like,
Yeah. So in hindsight, I think Eugene should have be the one that went back and told everyone the campers are coming, and he would have lived.
I just meant in general.
Yeah,
Like, did you ever think at like any of the other times that like an order had to be given that you could have been like, "Oh yeah,
Well, yeah, I was gonna
Eugene.
play more into it, but our superiors died immediately, so I was like, oh.
well yeah, well isn't that the perfect time
Yeah,
for
right.
a leader? A leader is born from the ashes. I think that's the saying, or that's a phoenix."
In my mindset, and I guess in Eugene's too, it's just like there's a lot that would happen. At the
too
end.
much happened for him.
Yeah.
He's overwhelmed.
I was a little overwhelmed.
Okay.
All right, what about you, Billy? Are you happy with the way Billy's story kind of went, or is there anything you feel like you missed or that you'd do differently?
There are two things I would have done differently immediately. One of them is mechanical, and they would just enforce it later. I should have taken pacifism. I took the Hippocratic Oath, which I thought I did okay, but I should have taken pacifism and then really nailed home that whole idea of a guy in war not wanting to be a fighter or not being a fighter, but still being helpful. Like not refusing to be in the war, but refusing to hurt people in the war. Should have done that. I thought that would have been a lot more interesting, especially if the same scenario plays out and the ending happens the exact same way, because then I killed a creature and then have to learn to live with killing.
Yeah, well, a creature that was like obviously still sentient and obviously like a person.
Yeah.
Because like that was, I think, the distinction.
Well, yeah, it's still a person, but chose to be bad.
Right,
Because
right,
like I let him out. I even offered him kindness in the like best way possible, but he still ended up turning around. So I think that it would have been more worth it if I doubled down on the pacifism and then had that moment where I had to do it because now Eugene is dying. I am going to die unless I do something. And so I think that would have been a perfect like thing I would do. But otherwise, I think I'm relatively happy. I think the only thing that would have also changed is I think his attitude throughout it should have been, or not should have been, but would have been nice to have a little bit more of a steep change than the gradual change I played with into like being okay with hurting people. I think a steep change would have been just a little bit more.
A steep change being like you mean
Eugene
like
down.
it all kind of comes to that end moment. Like that's the define. Like you resist, and then at the end moment you change, or do you mean like
No,
earlier?
that would have been for like the pacifist. If I went like a full pacifist version of it, I think that a steep change earlier
Oh,
would
gotcha.
have been better because like after we released the guy is technically a moment where I could have like switched. I
Yeah,
think that's the
yeah.
only thing I would have done differently. I would have made that like apparent and obvious, and then so on. So
Okay.
You could have played with that internal conflict more too, like killing someone earlier than at the
Yeah,
very
it could have had like a more tumultuous mental effect.
yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
I think those are the two I would do if I had to go back and do it again.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Well, now we flip it. What would you have done differently, Mister
narratively?
War Master? Or what character would you have changed or done differently?
So I mean, like any artist, I have about 100 different things that I would do differently.
Nah.
I think if I had to narrow it to just two, I think I didn't build up Sergeant McAllister enough to matter when he died. I think it hit fine, but I think literally every other death hit probably harder. Because I think Hughes hit about where I wanted it to, because it was kind of a sudden, unexpected.
Yeah, I was like, oh my, what the?
Yeah, well, because like Hughes'
I just told him to close the door.
And I thought it was a good like war version of a death. You know, like it instead of like self-sacrifice it's still a good one, but like self-sacrifice in the way he did was a very good one. I think.
Yeah. Well, his was that like rash, kind of angry, quickly made decision. As for I think McAllister's was more like a traditional like siren song. He didn't plan to survive.
Right.
I don't think Hughes planned to survive. I think it was more that at least Hughes knew he would be eliminating the threat, as for McAllister was delaying it.
Right.
I think I would have built up McAllister differently, and I think I would have paid off the Reynolds drama a little better if I had to do another thing different. I think I would have paid off the tension between you two a little better, but I think I just ran out of time.
Yeah.
So I ended up benching it.
So okay. Where was Reynolds in the last battle?
Reynolds was dead, right?
Yeah, he died in the town, right?
No, I think
right
he
before.
got
No, because
he got impaled in the stomach, and then
he,
Billy had to choose between pulling you out of the fire and saving
Oh
him.
yeah.
that's right.
My nice crit fail.
I was trying. I thought for some reason my brain was like Reynolds pulled me out of the fire and talked later, but no, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, Reynolds, I would have played that up a little more had I had the opportunity, but I think it's fine for what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have a point, Peter?
I was thinking of one, but I don't know anymore.
Do you have another point ready?
No.
I'd say that the thing I do differently on Eugene is I'd probably quicker try to make his bright look and outlook be more grim, I guess, and take that leadership position more, like I planned to in the beginning. A lot happened real quickly. Things went to shit, so
you just
as a
progressed
player,
them
I wasn't.
faster?
Yeah, it was faster than I thought it would happen. Obviously, usually how it goes. Also, crit fails hurt.
Right, but
Yeah, but I played around him.
I think the cool thing about all RPGs is that like those are moments to shine in different ways. You know, even if you fail, it's still a moment to reflect, not reflect like personally, but like reflect it in a character.
And I also think it's interesting because they drive like I think the way that the randomness element of it drives your character to be different, creative in a way that they're not always, which is cool because like
If you win at everything, then
yeah, well, and like early on, there was the scene where it was like a back-to-back crit fail. Like Sammy had tried to
Yeah, 3 in a row.
Billy had tried to stop Sammy from killing a retreating soldier during the first battle, and crit failed. So Billy got stabbed in the back, and Sammy tried to kill that soldier, and crit failed. So he was like basically just. It created an interesting scene that led to the capture of that character, and so consequently led to like all these other things, where like Billy was trying to spare him, and then Sammy was trying to kill him, but they were both so like war-worn at that point that neither of them could really do what they wanted. So it just kind of ended in like détente. He was spared, quote unquote, in a traditional sense. Like he didn't die, but he wasn't really spared the harm. He would have been, because like if Billy had succeeded, he would have gotten away back to his own trench.
But yeah,
And if Sammy had succeeded, he would have died.
he would have
so-
been the farthest from his trench.
It led to like a cool story scenario where there was like a détente. Nobody really won, but it created, and then it introduced a story element that you guys were able to pick up later that I think made for some interesting role play between you and Reynolds.
Yeah, complications that happen randomly no one accounts for.
Well,
add a nice
it's called
little-
life.
Yeah.
Welcome to life, where sometimes things just happen. You're never ready for it.
You're never ready for Eugene to get on a tractor and just go ham.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and there's the flip
Yeah.
side. Sometimes great things happen, and we're not ready for them.
You catch yourself on
Yeah.
fire.
And then following immediately after you get knocked into the ground by a werewolf.
Yeah, werewolves. It's life, man.
There was a viewer question for Billy that came on episode 2. I want to say it was, and I think I know the answer, but just for record's sake, was Billy based on Desmond Doss and that story, or was he just like even loosely?
Desmond Doss.
So I'm gonna say no based on that reaction, but Desmond Doss is he's a real person in World War
Oh,
II.
yeah, I don't know real people.
Yeah, in World War II, he did the same thing. He didn't kill anybody. He was a medic.
Oh, okay.
You
the
had a Purple
movie-
Heart, right?
He had a couple medals, but in the movie Hacksaw Ridge is based on Desmond Doss's actions,
Oh, okay.
and Billy is extremely similar, which I guess kind of leads me to my next question. What was kind of the theory for each of your characters? Like, what inspired you, if anything, or how did you come up with the kind of concept? And we'll start with
Eugene.
this time. Oh, Eugene this time. Okay.
Yeah. No,
I've been
I
overruled.
took control.
Hey, listen here. It's not season 3 yet.
Oh, I say, I know we're playing tabletop, so it's kind of nerdy, right? And I always wanted to play around that character, but also maybe try a different like voice with it as well. So I tried to make a more high pitched, raspy voice. I don't know if it came out well. Sometimes my regular voice bled through because that's a lot of nasal in speaking like Eugene. But I always thought it'd be cool to play as like it wasn't quite scrawny, but he wasn't like buff like Billy, I guess.
I wasn't buff. I was well
Billy's
kept.
changed his physique during most of the episodes.
No, it was well kept. Someone kept me in line.
I'm going to release a workout video now called Buff Like Billy. That is just workouts
The
I
meal
think
plan
Billy
Chicago
will have done.
Secondary option, let's release a rap album featuring Eugene.
Oh my god.
That would be interesting.
I got you. Well, at the end of this episode, we'll throw in a rap.
Oh, okay.
Oh, freestyling.
It'll be
Eugene.
news to me too.
But yeah, and I thought, someone who's more battle wit into like the studying side of college would have been cool to play into a actual war and where he's experiencing this for like real. I mean,
So kind of like a green kid that's like
Yeah.
follows it, and it's like, oh, this is really cool from the outside, but everyone
Yeah, they're not
everyone
gonna-
thinks it's cool on the outside until you step in.
they're not going to tell
Maybe
you
not anymore,
the,
but-
the grim side, right? You don't want people to deter from going to war.
Well, and I think even back then it was even worse.
Yeah, so like they greenlight all of that.
All can think of is a big
Propaganda.
poster.
Yeah.
The army wants you.
Do it.
Join us.
No, I don't think they said that on that poster. I don't.
Interesting.
Sam points at
So
you.
it's kind of a voice that led to the character and less of the character that led to the voice in this particular.
No, I think the character came first, and I worked out the voice.
Okay.
I mean, they both fit. If
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could
yeah.
go either or, but yeah, I think the character was first.
Fun challenge for anyone who's listening is there's a person on TikTok who sounds very much like what Eugene sounds like, and I showed it to Peter on like the second day. If you can find that person, I will high five you no matter what state you live in. That's my promise.
I am unique, Billy.
False.
I am
Alright,
dead,
so
Billy.
Billy, what if not Desmond Doss? Then what was the inspiration? What was the idea behind it? Was it just
So-
the hypocrisy or the?
So it actually started as something that, so a story my wife told me is of a person who ended up going to the medical field and basically had no understanding of medicine, but did things in a relatively like smart way. So for example, the example that was there was someone got like glass peppered all the way through their back and they had to extract it. And the way they did it was they took duct tape, rolled it all the way back, and pulled all of it out, which works. It's not the cleanest, but it works. It just does it faster. So my brain was like, wouldn't that be cool? Like a street doctor, kind of like what you see in like
Chop sharp.
Yeah, well,
well, and so that's where the premise started. It was like that. An EMT, but like somebody who goes into some type of medicine having very little idea what normal medicine is, and then it turned into, okay, what happens if he was just a person that lived in that life, that like that very very downtrodden life, and then became a medicine. So that's where like the poor bedside manner came in, and that's where like the constant quotes to Chicago came in, because it's like this is all he has to reference. He doesn't have a textbook. He couldn't afford the textbook, so he's like, I think one of them was like, when my friend got stabbed, I learned the best thing to do is to not look, and then like he would stick his hand in, just because it's something that would do that. So I think realistically it started from that story, and then it turned into just kind of an idea that I was like, it would be cool to see it like a doctor like that,
okay, cool.
or an EMT, not a doctor.
I think it's cool
He
that-
did not have a PhD.
Billy, in his entirety, really relied on his previous experiences.
I
through and
really
through.
think if you two had like half flipped, it probably would have worked interestingly. Because I think Billy being a jack of all trades, like smart guy, but like a street smarts vibe would have been really interesting. And I think Eugene being more of like a well educated in a particular discipline. Because like you had battle, but battle is not a discipline that you like go to school for. And so like I thought it was cool, and it came
Being
in.
a combat medic.
Yeah, well, maybe not even medicine, but like if he was like pre-med or something, and then he became a medic, I think that could have been a cool flip. Sammy, who we won't like, who isn't here, Sammy had an
Who we
interesting like, I think foundation, and it was it was pretty much just his premise was his original conception, and then kind of blossomed from there, from my understanding. So Thomas was telling me that he picked the 17-year-old because it was kind of a unique circumstance that happened in World War I and II, where people were lying to join because they were so excited.
Right.
It kind of stopped after that because, I mean, the glorification of war kind of stopped after that, right? But like, mostly because I think you can make a decent argument that in World War I and II, they had a just cause to fight for, especially II.
Right.
But in like Vietnam and on, in the American perspective, war became less attractive, and like even modern, like
Way more political.
yeah, like I don't want to go fight for like oil or like, something else. So I think that's where that ended. So he took that premise and ran with it, and then built the personality around like being an immature 17-year-old.
You played it well.
Yeah, and I think that worked well for what it was. Obviously, he didn't get to see through the conclusion just because he couldn't make it. But I think, all in all, I liked the idea, and so that just some credit where credit's due on that end.
Here's a follow up fun fact to that. My original start of conception, because I don't know much about war or war stories, I started with Pat Tillman. That was my first idea. I was like, what can I do with a guy that? So my original idea was maybe he was in a previous battle, shot someone, got out, then had to get back in. And I was like, how could I do that? That was my original idea that I never had. Never wanted to work because I couldn't figure out a way to get it back in
Back
logically.
in Chicago, I shot someone. Now I need to get out.
Also, fun fact.
I shot a man in Chicago just to watch him die.
That's enough of that.
It's parody. I changed the lyrics.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
And it's less than
Please
3
continue that.
seconds.
But yeah, no, I agree. As for like my inspirations for the general story, I took a few that are pretty obvious. So I think the bulk of it, so I guess there's two big ones that I can think of. So there was for the day in the life type stuff, All Quiet on the Western Front was a big one, both the book and the movie. Although I watched the movie in English, so hate me if you want to. There was a huge fight about that apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently watching it in German was the way to go. The sub or dub argument continues. But and then the book was very good. So I used that to base a lot of the daily life stuff, like the gritty reality of the battles and like how I described some of the deaths, especially early on. And then the unavoidable parallel, I think, with any war story with secret experiments is Call of Duty Zombies. There is an unnatural. I cannot avoid that comparison. And so in my head, I just took the parts I liked and kind of incorporated them in, and then took it in my own direction. So it wasn't a giant rock from, well, Yeah, no, it wasn't a space rock that made everybody turn into zombies. It was, it was this other substance that was turning them into werewolves. And then I think the idea that they were failed experiments also took it in its own unique direction because, like, as it was revealed at the end, there was only one, and then by the end, two, counting Sammy, that had succeeded in actually fully transforming into werewolves. As for all the others were these like they couldn't transform back and they were like weaker.
No, right.
And so I think that was for me, those are the kind of two big sources of inspiration.
I thought it was Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf, yeah. Close.
I learned that werewolves hurt
Yeah.
a lot. Don't fight them in real life.
And it's funny that and the fun thing about all RPGs is that we took that inspiration that you had and a story that if played out normally probably would have looked something like those, and then turned it into basically Halo Reach inside one of those things because we had everybody die up until pretty much one
Yeah,
other
okay, I see where
person
you're going.
lived.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, almost there was only one survivor, right, in Halo Reach. It was June.
Yeah, June was the last.
So we had
one.
Reach adjacent. You're right. It's if Noble 6 didn't fall. That's
Yeah,
the ending here.
Yeah.
Because June, who was also the sharpshooter, and then McConnell was your sharpshooter, so that is pretty funny. Went to deliver a message, which is also what June was doing. And so he survived the war, which is kind of cool.
The only thing we missed the opportunity to do was
I know.
one of us needed to like ride. Well, actually, we almost got really close. If one of us died in the truck explosion, we would have had Carter's death.
Yeah. Well, if you'd run him over and died in the explosion.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Carter suicide bombed a
Scarab, yep.
scarab.
I think, Michael, at the end of the last episode, you mentioned that we should have brought it full circle when we met the guy that was strapped up against the turning, or whatever, the table that were moving him
The
out.
straight jacket?
Yeah, the straight jacket.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
guy.
the guy we met in the original city.
Yeah, so Billy.
Port.
Billy should have just been like the full circle back.
I thought about it, but here's like the reason I didn't was that I don't think it made sense in entirety to just give that to Billy, like to just throw it at him. I think in the end Billy had he retained enough sanity or rolled well enough, I don't remember what it was, that it didn't feel fitting for him to completely shatter. And while like I could have done it just for the sake of narrative, I think the organic ending almost fits a little more interestingly to me because I think though it still got across the point, the horror of war, so to speak, but it didn't create a hopeless ending that was unnecessary. Because like if it ended hopelessly, that was fine. But I wasn't trying to specifically create a hopeless ending. I was more trying to create a whatever happens to Billy is what happens to Billy or whoever survives kind of ending. I think a lot of what drove this season or a lot of what I've thought about this season, I didn't want it to be a repeat of Call of Cthulhu, so I tried to like space out the sanity events and make it a little more pulp action. Because like it's a war at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
And wars are defined by battle, not battle, battle.
yeah, the not battle is honestly the hard part. Like there's so much to fit in
Downtime.
between these scenes, between the major battles to make it make sense for one, but also to like bring out some of the character points. And so it was a lot of. I think one more thing I would change actually, I'd do less characters. I think I would do your squad probably just the 5 of you, or like 4 of you, and then the sergeant and one other, and focus just on that. And then you could have a much more tight relationship group than the 10 that we had in the game.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there's a few like O'Connell was an interesting character, and Hughes. So that's
Yeah.
two probably I would like to keep. And McAllister and Phelps were also decent. It's just a lot to put in. Like,
Yeah. No, for 8 episodes, it was just a
Yeah.
tight schedule.
So, we just got done with World War One, and there's a few wars between that World War Two that no one talks about, but there's also World War Two.
There's a few wars between World War One and Two.
Yeah. Any plans on a part 2?
So yeah, here I have thought about it. So because the ending's open, I mean, if you take it from a purely narrative standpoint, you guys actually didn't neutralize the threat itself. You learned about You learned about the major players. You learned about what they're doing, and you dealt with the immediate threat. Like the Black Hand's still out there; they're still active as far as everyone's aware. And you actually didn't get a chance to confront any of the 3 antagonists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would not be opposed to a part 2. Whether that be another part of World War One or going into World War Two.
I said the continuity probably changed since they succeeded in, I would assume, extending the war. So maybe it's just World War One continued.
Well, World War One, like in reality, doesn't end for 11 months.
Yeah.
And so, like, if there was a part two, and this is not like a guarantee that it could address like the actual ending of the war, but like, I think would I do it? Yeah. If this like suddenly became a popular series, I would absolutely pick it back up. I like writing war stories, and I think that we had a decent mix going on, but it's not something that's in the immediate forefront of my attention.
Good practice one.
Yeah, so to sum it in a sentence, yes, if this ends up being popular and people want more, I'm all about it. If it just kind of teeters out, then we just kind of leave it where it is.
So in other words, yes.
Long way
So
to
like
say
this
it.
video.
That being said, if you do like this video, download it, share it with your friends. That means it will get more popular, which means by definition we'll have to do another one. So you can watch us do it again.
Well,
It's
not
true.
watch. You can listen to. Maybe watch by then.
I was just say maybe watch by then. Also, they can stare at their screen and watch the title card and
That's
nothing
true.
else.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Just
had a
the-
brief animated thing on YouTube.
yeah, we had one animated
yeah.
background.
Billy in the mud.
Hey,
Did you notice that long-haired guy in the mud?
no, I didn't.
That was
notice it.
AI generated, guys and gals.
I can't
pretty
say
good.
that.
I just won't talk anymore. It's fine.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah. I said we're all in agreement there.
And lastly, what would you personally say is like in your opinion, the strongest part of this season? Like your favorite part?
I think my favorite part was how quickly, as a player for myself at least, like it really felt like we're in war and she gets real, right? Because I got hit with a.
Eugene gets
A
knocked out
mortar.
for the whole first battle.
I really
The second
felt.
battle too.
Yeah, I really felt that. Right, it's some grave stakes. Everyone
really
died.
Felt unconscious.
I really fell unconscious.
Everyone
during the
died
recording.
around me, and I couldn't do anything about it.
Okay,
So
kind
the
of
tone.
The tone was definitely, you nailed it on
the
that.
pacing.
The pacing.
Okay.
The only pacing issue I have, and it's kind of how it be, is like the factoring of like your platoon healing.
Yeah.
You can't really get around that too easily, but
Yeah, and
You
I
mean
didn't,
how we went into the last battle
Yeah.
with like -3
wounded.
for
I
I
everything?
didn't, yeah, and
Keep going.
I didn't want to like send you battle to battle super wounded, but I also didn't want to just have like 4 months of downtime. What about you, Billy? What would be your favorite moment?
That's sweet of you to call me Billy.
thank you, Michael.
My favorite moment, I think, was yes.
I think the tractor.
It
scene
doesn't have
was
to be a
the
moment,
best.
just a part of the story. Like it could be an element. Even.
I think my favorite moment was what I'm going to refer to as the somewhat of a climax. And yes, don't raise your eyebrows at me, all of you. I see all you listening. But basically, the whole. I guess I can't call it climax. The wonderful use of nothing happening and a lot of happening all at once. I think is really good, especially for describing war. So I'm gonna give you credit on that for the making it feel like I was doing like drone work and then having to be like a very important person and then being drone worked again. Make sense?
Gotcha. So like the
Because less of like a story pacing thing, but more of like a making it feel like it's a war.
right. Okay. Like the many hats approach.
I have a lot of hats.
And then I think everything that happened in the bunker with like Hugh's death and the smoke monster that I can't say that is is a good. It was good. Like I think everything in there was fun and it felt important and it also felt like painful to sit through those things because it was Hughes was a very nice person, had to blow up. There are now more creatures that I have to think about rather than just werewolves. Not to mention they have an obtuse amount of force. There's 3 of us and like 17 of them in the bunker all at once.
Yeah.
okay.
Hughes' mental state was probably nothing at that point.
Hey. It was fine. I checked.
Regularly. Okay. Interesting.
What about you? God.
If I had to pick
With a little
one,
extra.
You caused this war.
yeah, exactly. I think if I had to say what was the one thing I liked the most, it's probably that it was the absolute apex of writing and that nothing will ever supersede it.
I I accept.
I mean, yeah,
I accept
No,
this
no, no,
rules.
no.
it works.
No, obviously I like a lot of it because I wrote it, but like I think if there's a scene that played or a thing that went particularly well, I do think it was actually the first battle. I think is probably the best, in my opinion, the best moment that really
Yeah,
highlights.
when Peter
the-
couldn't talk the whole time. That
Yeah,
was
when Peter
real
shut
good.
the hell up finally. No,
That's my favorite.
no, I think the first battle really felt the most grounded to me. And like the later battles were good, and I think, like you said, the escalating importance followed by like falling back down to not important was interesting. But I think that the first battle played particularly well because it gave you guys a chance, minus Eugene, to do your thing, like and do it well, you know.
I slept pretty well.
And then
That's what Eugene does.
Billy
And
really
then-
slept well.
And then after you were done doing your thing, I think that crushing reality of like nobody cares, especially on Sammy, I think that they played particularly well because Sammy barely got a chance to catch his breath before they were making him rebuild like the trench wall,
Yeah, that's fair.
him and Hughes, and then like you were dragged into basically surgery with no experience,
And I got med leave.
and so.
And Eugene went home and had a good day.
Well, but then Eugene got humbled because I think he's like so intelligent and he's so like about it, and then he got put on like shovel and shit
Latrine
duty.
duty.
Yeah,
Yeah, that crit fail.
and so I think he just like honestly, I thought Eugene was gonna go more and more down a route of like insubordination just because he kept getting like snuffed by the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So I'm
Just
kind of.
at some point, he just like,
Yeah, I
no,
figured
never
he
mind.
just-
I'm cleaning
well,
this latrine no more.
It ended up being Sammy
For
so.
sure that the end of this werewolf whole deal when he died, if he lived, there would definitely have been more a lot
Rebellion?
More rebellion.
Oh yeah, I think his death played really well too. Like not the actual dying part, but like the actual dying part, not the taking the wounds, but like the lead up to it. I thought was pretty cool. I thought
Billy
you two.
revived me.
I thought you two bounced off of each other really well.
The adrenaline to nothing.
Yeah, that kind of goes to the beginning, like the tension part is like Billy and Eugene were like being friends and exploring France.
And then you realize that Billy only wanted
Yeah.
you for a human
Yeah.
meat shield.
and then I took the brunt of a mortar. and then it got real. Yeah, you did
then
pretty
Jacques
good on that
returned.
first scene.
Jacques returned.
Jock. He did return. That was fun. That was
Who's that?
cool. Your drinking buddy.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Jock.
I was thinking of someone else. I was thinking of a different book.
You keep mentioning her name. I don't know who she is.
I don't know where that came from. I never mentioned anyone's name.
I don't know. I just improv.
Yeah, it's for fun. I think
You don't remember it because you were drunk.
You were drunk, yeah, yeah.
Listen, I've never been drunk. I don't know what it's like.
It's just like that.
Thank you for watching, everybody. I think we're going to go ahead and call it there. If you have any specific questions about the season, you can leave them below in one of the various comment sections or any thoughts that you have as far as what you thought of season 2 overall. If you'd like to just let us know down below what favorite moment, you can answer any of these questions yourself. Obviously, if you enjoy the podcast, give it a follow, 5 hearts on or 5 stars on Apple Podcast. Like it on YouTube, subscribe, stay notified, and we will be dropping season 3 very soon.
And also, you can say in the comments, what was your favorite way Eugene got knocked out?
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a couple, so you can pick your favorite. Also, you can also pick your favorite.
I'll read them. Oh.
You can also pick your favorite ending snippet that I leave at the end of every episode. If you skip out when we say thanks for watching, go to the end. I leave little small gifts for everybody there.
There's a continuity.
They have their own story.
Yeah.
And there will be one here. I already know which one it
Oh
is.
no.
Eugene,
In the heart of war, a soldier stood. Eugene is his name, misunderstood. Fate dealt him a hand, oh so cruel. Got back up with little to refuel. Oh, Eugene, an unlucky soldier, fighting a life that's growing colder. Gets knocked down, lights knocked down. Gets back up, without a doubt. He carried his burden and scars on display. Started the battle blown away. Billy helped him get through the pain. Friendship in hand, helped his brain. Oh, Eugene, an unlucky soldier, fighting a life that's growing colder. Gets knocked down, not much to say. Hopefully his deeds save the day.